Your take on that?
My take on that is, first and foremost, I have realized, as I said with the race issue, that a lot of the times it's not Black Americans behind it. It's not LGB behind this trans agenda. I've spoken to tons of people that are on the left, lesbian, gays, and they are uncomfortable.
Okay.
With what they don't even understand why they're being forced to pretend to defend this. I mean, LGB really has nothing to do with T.
Right.
And they've been able to amass a lot of power, push through policies. California just proposed a bill that
Are you serious?
boys and girls sections that would make boys and girls sections in retail stores and online stores illegal, and that people that have signs that say boys section, girls section will get fined $1,000. Right? You can't tell me that gays and lesbians got together and were like, this is just unbelievable.
Fact.
So there's something political that's pushing this, and they're hiding behind the LGB people to try to push that through, which is interesting and it's super alarming. But
okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
But in regards to children identifying, which is definitely happening, they're being encouraged in the school system. So again, there's something coming down the political pipeline that's encouraging them to see. And then you have these woke parents who are like, well, this is just who my child is. Wow! And what I always say is that if you show me a trans child, it's like showing me a vegan dog. You know who's making the decisions.
Right.
It's just like, my dog's a vegan. No, your dog's not. You know what I mean? My child's trans. No, your child's not. You know, you are, putting this lifestyle upon the child because you just don't think. I grew up. I've been a kid. You don't think like that when you're a kid. You don't think in terms of sexual identification, gender identification. You hardly even know what the stuff even means.
Fact.
You just kind of want to run around a playground and have some fun. I was the ultimate tomboy when I was, I would probably say from 6 to 10. I was just like, I just wanted to hang out with the boys.
Stop it.
Wanted to wear baggy clothes. And thank goodness that I grew up in the 90s, because my mother wasn't like, well, you're Michael. You're obviously Michael. You know what I mean? They were just like, you're Candace going through a tomboy phase. And then, when I got older, suddenly I thought those boys I was running around the playground with were attractive. So these kids are not even being allowed to grow up, and their parents are pigeonholing them into these decisions, which if you grow up and, allow that to happen, this is going to end up with depression, suicide. The rates are staggering for transgender.
That doesn't make sense.
Individuals who actually transition and commit suicide thereafter. There's a lot of transitioning regret, and it's because they don't have parents parenting, and that's sad.
Yeah. To your point about this not being an LGB thing, but
okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
T thing. When you look at the numbers, the L lesbians are being basically erased in the younger generations as we see the trans numbers go up, and it's also.
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
It's interesting you say as a tomboy. If you were a tomboy now with some of the modern parents, they'd say you were trans, and that's why it's this irony where. Actually, the left has made gender a more rigid thing.
Are you serious?
Because now it's actually, if you're a girl, you're not allowed to behave like a boy, because if you do, now you become a boy.
Right.
So for a long time, it seemed like they were saying, well, just because let's open up, let's be more open-minded.
Wait for it.
And if you're a girl, doesn't mean you have to play with dolls. You can play with trucks too. I'm on board for that. Mm-hmm. But now they've kind of contradicted themselves, and they said, well, come to think of it, if you're a girl playing with the trucks, maybe you're actually a boy. So
yeah, they've made it more rigid, and that's what I say in terms of race too. These things that they focus on, they say that they're trying to make things better. They always worsen them. That it wasn't an issue for girls to play with guys. If I was in the toy store and saw a boy's sign and a girl's sign, I don't even know if I was reading it at the time that I was going to Toys R Us, which is now extinct. But secondly, if I wanted to go into the boys aisle and grab something, I would have just done it. My parents would never been like, what are you doing in the boys aisle? I never felt traumatized that there were they were filtering products. And by the way, guys they gravitate towards different things. Oh my God! My brother played with entirely different things. We wanted the Barbies. It wasn't because of a gender construct, We wanted the Barbies. I wanted to take care. I wanted to pamper. I wanted a baby doll. Those maternal instincts happen at such a young age. My
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
Brother, he wanted video games. He wanted trucks. He wanted things that I just wouldn't have played with. But nothing was stopping us from playing with the other toy. It's certainly not our parents.
Yeah, that's my first kids were boy-girl twins.
Oh my God!
And you bring them to the playroom, got all the toys laid out. And even at 2 years old, they tend to gravitate towards their gender typical toys. But it's not like I'm standing there to my son, get your hands off that doll. That's trucks are for you, son.
Yeah.
Now, okay, we got to talk about your show. That's supposed to be the main topic here. We've gone off, and I'm not a very good interviewer. I've taken us in
it's fine.
a circuitous
fun.
path.
It's best when they're just natural, you know?
So your show is debuting soon. Can you tell us? Even here, it's been sort of like mysterious. What is the Candace show?
Yeah, very mysterious.
I heard there's going to be an audience. I heard these kind of things. So can you tell us about the show? Can you
Wait for it.
give us
a lot of rumors?
Yeah.
So I think, we kind of just wanted to create something that hasn't really been done before for conservatives. And the time is super opportune, right? You have minimally 80 million Americans who just feel like they're not being heard right now. And who feel like they're being castigated for their political views. And it also feels like we've been increasingly shut out of culture. Like, we can't have, conservatives aren't allowed to be funny. They're not allowed to have live audiences. This is not a thing that conservatives are allowed to do. So we are doing a live audience show, and it will be very much in the vein of a lot of the old school late night talk shows when they were actually fun, right? When they actually had a sense of humor and they weren't so polarizing and done entirely at the expense of half of the country. And so I always say to people, I wanted to create something, and it's so funny to me to say this now, but when I was growing up, I loved Chelsea Lately. Before she went lefty, wacko, couldn't take a joke, and now she's taking Xanax to deal with the election results. She was funny. Once upon a time, Chelsea Handler was actually funny and irreverent and had a sense of humor and made fun of everyone. And it was a feel-good show. It had a panel. So there were elements that I really loved and missed about having a woman who could have a sense of humor and not take herself so seriously, first and foremost, and just kind of creating a show that does still also have
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
a real purpose. We're not sitting around talking about celebrities like she was talking about, but we are talking about these sort of really important political issues that are getting lost because a lot of the times, the news cycle moves so quickly that it's almost, we're all ADD, right? 1 second you're trying to talk about this issue and then they've kicked it and they're talking about this issue. And I really wanted to sort of get people focused on these issues like we just talked about in this show to really understand what is happening in this country, how serious it is, but also to give them a message of hope. And that's through my monologue and my epilogue. What would you say at the end when you say something at the end? Epilogue, maybe?
called epilogue, sure.
Yeah, but but the opposite of an epilogue is a prologue, and I wouldn't call the monologue the prologue. Well, I guess it's a monologue prologue. Yeah, and then it's a monologue epilogue.
I just call it the monologue at the end.
Yeah.
The simplest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monologue at the end.
Yeah.
And sort of giving them a sense of hope and letting people know, okay, it does kind of feel like the world's on fire and we're just watching it burn. But there are some things to feel hopeful about. People are fighting back. People are winning. And to invite, for the interview segment.
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
With this already. I'd be like, hey, honey, let's just go out and come home and not constantly
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
be chasing the press. At the very moment that they're saying that they hate the press, they are the ones that released the statements, essentially trying to evoke Princess Diana's death. Like, they love the press. They love the press. They love the victim attention. And they are understandably getting a backlash, but no backlash greater than what happened when their lawyer sent a legal letter to Backgrid USA. Backgrid USA essentially is a photo agency. They were the ones that sent out some paparazzi to get the shot of them, obviously. And they decided, just by themselves, Harry and Meghan, that they were owed all of the footage from the agency that was possibly shot. I don't know why they demanded this. Maybe because they're working on their next Netflix documentary installment, and whatever they were about to say, this photo agency was going to be able to debunk. Maybe that was going to be their next installment, how we almost died just like my mom. I don't know. These people are absolutely crazy. So anyways, they demanded the agency's footage of the chase.
Wait for it.
And they wrote this: we hereby demand that Backgrid immediately provide us with copies of all photos, videos, and or films taken last night by the freelance photographers.
Here it comes.
After the couple left their event and over the next several hours. I'm sorry, what? Do people think this is how the world works? You can just hereby demand things? I hereby demand that Harry and Meghan release their Montecito mansion to me and my husband and my family. We will now be raising our kids in Montecito. I hereby demand. Actually sounds like the king's authority.
Oh my God!
Right? Hereby, from the king, by order of the crown. Well, Backridge's lawyer did not like this. They rejected the Hush's demand, but they really went far enough to say this in a letter. In America,
Wait for it.
as I'm sure you know, property belongs to the owner of it. Third parties cannot just demand it be given to them, as perhaps kings can do. Perhaps you should sit down with your client and advise them that his English rules of royal prerogative to demand that the citizenry hand over their property to the crown were rejected by this country long ago. We stand by our founding fathers. I laughed out loud when I saw that. I stood up and I said, I pledge allegiance to the flag. I sang, I'm proud to be an American, USA, USA. I bought tickets to a Trump rally. I mean, this is such an epic response to these children, these psychodramatic children who keep casting themselves as the victim in their own movie. Yes, there are paparazzi at the events. Yes, the paparazzi are going to try to see if you're going to an after party. Every celebrity lives here. Beyonce, Jay-Z, they have their photos taken everywhere they go. Nobody turns it into a psychodramatic thriller.
That doesn't make sense.
Quite like these two. Everyone's tired of them. Please, Harry and Meghan, go to Canada. I feel like when the UK and America don't want something, we usually agree that it should go up into Canada. And there's no reason for you guys to be there. You guys hate paparazzi. Why are you living in California? Why are you attending events in New York City? Because you don't actually hate the paparazzi. You want attention, but you want attention to be only exactly when you want it, right? You're like, when we call the paparazzi, we want them there. But if we don't want them there, then...
Wait for it.
Yeah, that's probably where they were going by. They were probably actually going to Jay-Z or Beyonce's house, and that was the only reason they didn't want the paparazzi to follow them. They are such a deplorable couple that they have actually brought this nation together. The left and the right are finally agreeing on something. Meghan Markle has done is pursued the most press in the form of a Netflix documentary, the most possible press she could possibly receive, and wants you to believe that it's because all she wanted to do was to escape them. And here's what's especially sick, and I want to add this to it. So Prince William came right out and said last year that the interview that took place between his mother, remember his mother was conned into giving an interview that she was not aware of from a journalist he is a disgraced journalist named Martin Bashir. He completely conned her in 1995. And the interview was very famous because she spoke out about her husband, Prince Charles, but she wasn't aware that she was doing it. So this interview became synonymous with how taken advantage of she was by the press.
Stop it.
Prince William again said that he never wanted to see this interview see the light of day ever again. It was traumatic for him to see this interview being played because he's watching his mother being taken advantage of. Who sold the interview again? Well, his brother, Prince Harry, sold it to Netflix, and they premiered parts of that interview in the documentary yesterday. It's despicable. It's disgusting. And I just feel that everyone needs to get on board, and I see it happening already left and right. We are agreeing that there is something that is deeper that is happening here, something that is darker that is happening here. And this web is being very carefully woven by Meghan Markle. But we should all be able to speak out and realize that this level of intrusion on a family dynamic that I don't dispute. Of course, families are complicated. I have fights with people in my family all the time. But to make $100 million and then $25 million from Spotify, talking over and over again, pretending that you're the victim, when in fact what you are is a shrewd capitalist. Yeah.
Stop it.
We should all be able to renounce them and say that this needs to stop. And you need to leave Prince William alone because he is the only victim in this story at this point.
Breaking tonight in a major world-exclusive interview with GB News star Nigel Farage, Donald Trump has tackled every big issue in international politics.
Okay.
And speaking from Scotland, the former US president, who is running for the Republican nomination, has slammed the troubled and scandal-plagued ex-First Minister of Scotland, scheming Sturgeon, for damaging her nation. Trump weighed in on the shocking case of double rapist Isla Bryson, who exposed the failing SNP's sick gender reform bill after he was sent to a women's prison. Watch.
Well, I think a lot of countries have had enough of it, what's going on. And I know that case, and I thought it was terrible. And I guess it helped ruin her career.
Okay.
I think she had other reasons also. But I just felt she didn't love Scotland. Well, they just said, I just walked by and there was a big crowd for a wedding, a beautiful wedding, incredible people. And they were not happy with the people that were running Scotland, let's put it that way. They said, run for First Minister, sir, run for First Minister.
That doesn't make sense.
One of about 20 massive scoops from that fascinating sit-down. So to react now, I'm delighted to be joined by the man behind the extraordinary exclusive interview, Nigel Farage, live from Scotland. And also senior advisor to Trump's presidential campaign, Jason Miller. So look, Nigel, we've got lots to unpick here, but can we start with Scotland? Because obviously this is a huge scandal. What's going on in Scotland at the moment. Most of the mainstream media in the UK seem to want to ignore what's going on. So it's very significant, isn't it, to see Trump talking in this way about the failed regime of Nicola Sturgeon.
Well, look, I mean, 3 weeks ago we had Sleepy Joe spending 4 days in Ireland because his great-great-grandparents left there in 1840. But hey, I'm Irish, despite the fact Biden's an English name and he's got relations in Surrey. Donald Trump has a lot more Scotland in him than Joe Biden has Ireland in him. Fact. He clearly admired and loved his mother, Mary MacLeod, hugely. She was a West Coaster, of course, Western Isles. And that was why Turnberry was the most appropriate place, I thought, to meet him.
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
He cares a lot about Scotland. This is the first American president, possibly in decades, that really cares about the relationship with the UK. And it's there within him at an emotional level. Make no mistake about any of that.
So that was a lie.
I thought what he said about Sturgeon was interesting. Basically, what he's saying is that her actions were against the interests of Scotland.
Okay.
That Scotland became a place that, rather than put money into, people took money out of. That was said with great, great passion. He was fairly neutral about the new First Minister, but then he doesn't really know him very well. I did remind